showed you how to do it?
No, not from there. He said there was another cable and I was just gonna plug my laptop in.
AJ, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not controlling from the.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm gonna get started early.
Yeah, I mean, you're already streaming, so you're good.
Streaming where?
I mean, you're streaming to the website right now, so you're good.
Goodness. Thank you, AJ. Appreciate you.
Just make sure you use the mic so we
I
get
got
the
you.
recording. So you
Got
good?
you. Okay.
All right.
Well, that changes things. All right. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Paul Flowers, and I serve as the pastor here at the Antioch Baptist Church. And if you have not been greeted or welcomed already, I want to welcome you to this little slice of heaven, to this wonderful community of faith. I was licensed in this church 20-some years ago, and when the pastor retired, they called me back to be the pastor, and so I'm just grateful to be here. And grateful to share with you all today from this topic, rules of engagement. And so we're going to talk about digital discipleship and how we might do that, and how some strategies we might use and implement to do that in virtual space. Let me start here. Growing up in the, I was born in the 60s. I'm gonna date myself. And coming of age in the 70s and coming of age in the 80s, there was no question where you would be on a Sunday morning from roughly 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, depending on your church. In fact, if you did not make that appointment on Sunday morning from 9 to roughly 1 o'clock, that you were not going to be doing anything else during the week because you missed that first appointment. Some of you all understand what I'm talking about. So as I began to think about this topic, I did some research. I looked at a Gallup poll, was done back in 23, that suggested that only 20% of persons who were part of that poll attended church regularly. 20%. 41% attended church at least once a month. And 57% never went to church. But the Great Commission to go and make disciples has not been vetoed, has it? And it has been affirmed time and time again by the Supreme Court of Heaven that our task is to make disciples. But given these numbers, how do you do that? Because many of you, like myself, were nurtured and developed as disciples in a particular place, right? So I didn't talk about the fact that every summer for 2 weeks we had to go to Vacation Bible School. I didn't talk about the fact that at my grandmother's house, where I stayed with her most of the summer, she would have the Mormons come in and she would have the BTU come in. We had to come in the house every day at 12 o'clock noon and sit for Bible study for 2 hours. Discipleship was done in a place at a particular time. But we are living in an age now where only 20% of those who have been polled attend church regularly. 41% attend at least once a month, and 57% never attend. I did another search of the Pew Research, and it said 43% of adults participate in both person and virtual experiences. 57%, again, do not. Another report suggested that 20% of us, or U.S. adults rather, watch religious services online via app or website. And here is the problem. That many, if not most of our churches are not making the impact digitally and in virtual space that we could. We have fallen for the misguided notion that all we had to do was turn on the camera, let the camera run for however long your service runs, and that was going to be enough to attract people to your ministry, and that was going to be enough to disciple people in their walk. And I've come to suggest that that's not enough. And so I want to provide some strategies. I want to show us some case studies of churches and ministries that are doing this work well. And I'm hopeful that this will be helpful to you in the work that you're about to do. And, okay, AJ, where are you, AJ? I just saw you. Are you ready? Let's go with the slides. All right, so this is my title. Isn't that nice, y'all? In full disclosure, for those who have not heard, full disclosure, I am deeply rooted in AI. This PowerPoint was created by an AI software called Gamma. You know about it? I love it. Gamma. All you have to do is upload a file to Gamma, and Gamma will spit out however many slides you want. Makes the work easy. This took me 3 minutes. If I had tried to change the pictures, it would have took me about an hour. So I just left the pictures that were there. That took me 3 minutes. So in full disclosure, I'm really rooted into this AI. So let's move forward. All right. So here again are. I guess it's on me now, huh? I got it. All right. Can you all see this? Can you all see this? I want you to look at these numbers. 1 in 5 U.S. adults use apps or websites. We talked about that, right? 30% go online to search for information about religion. 21% in terms of reading scripture. 20% watching services, not including religious services. You see how the numbers go down. If we go to this chart, it tells us who's using that type of media most often. Half of highly religious adults under the age of 50 are heavy users of religious technology. Look at the numbers. I mean, and it's still low, if you think about it. 16% of all U.S. adults. And then it kind of bell curves, if you will. But again, the issue is this side, the non-users. So if 57% of persons are not going to church, and 54% of them are not using any type of media to get their religious services, then how are we discipling people? That's the question we want to wrestle with. And I want to suggest that we can do some of that virtually. And I'm going to show us what I've been studying. I did my doctoral work in faith and faith formation discipleship, and I finished in 2012. When I finished my degree, the only thing out there in terms of media was Facebook. And there was a program, they stopped, I don't know why they stopped using it, but it was a program that dealt with discipleship, and it was put videos up, and you could go get Bible studies, you could ask for prayer, things like that. That was the only thing out there, right? Now we have at our disposal so much more to help us do this work. And so I'm going to talk to us about a strategy I call digital ecosystem, that we can utilize the social media, the virtual platforms, the digital platforms, in an effort to help move these numbers in the other direction, right? If the commission is that we're discipling and they're not coming to our church, but they are going online, and we know people spend a lot more time online than's probably recorded here, then how do we reach them? How do we structure a program, a system that will reach them, all right? And that may even mean some folks in our own churches who may only come once a month, twice a month, right? How do we reach them? And so for me, some of the case studies I'm going to show you, they're reaching millions of people. I'm not trying to reach 1 million people. I'm just trying to reach Antioch right now. And if I can reach Antioch effectively, then maybe somebody will find value in what we're doing and pick it up, right, and do it where they are. So I'm not trying to save the world. I'm really trying to maximize the ministry here, because I've noticed that, I don't know what the percentage is, but I noticed on first Sunday, church is close to packed. And then each Sunday, progressively, it gets less and less and less. And the same thing with Bible study, the same thing with everything else. All right. So let's move now to, I don't know where AJ is, and he's not helping me. I want to look at some biblical foundations. This is crazy. It's in the front. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There we go. That's my Aunt Jazz back there, y'all. She helping me out. All right, so I want to start here. I was trained in the academy, so everything we do in the academy, particularly seminary, we always are dealing with the biblical foundation is, what theology is around it, and then whatever the historical antecedent is. And so historically, we know that we're probably in one of the greatest shifts in the history of the church. We've seen something very similar to this when the Gutenberg press was created, and the Bible was made available to everybody. And now what we're watching in terms of social media, and particularly AI and these things, this stuff is progressing very quickly. The problem is there's still some people who feel like AI is from the devil, that this is a creation of Satan. And so we want to make sure we root ourselves biblically. So, of course, the first one is Acts chapter 1 and 8. I don't know if y'all can see that, but you will be my witnesses to the end of the earth. One of the ways we can do that quite easily is through what? Virtual and digital space, right? Matthew 5 and 14 and through 16. You are the light of the world. You are the salt of, y'all know that scripture, the salt of the earth. And you don't take a light and put it under a bushel, right? You put it at the top of the hill, you don't put it in the bush. And so again, this space, this digital space gives us the potential to be visible in ways in which we have not been visible before. We are able then to reach people all across this nation, all across the world, just by investing in a digital ecosystem, whatever that looks like for your particular ministry in your church, okay? And then finally, Romans 10, 14, 15, of course, how will they hear without a preacher, right? Again, there's a way in which we can use, I know, right? We can use this digital media as a means of proclamation and reaching those who might never enter your church, right? And so, you know, I use this tagline, and, you know, we're not just online, we're on a mission. That's how we have to think about this ecosystem, that we're using the ecosystem to do the mission, the work of discipleship. All right, AJ. Can you imagine, you can move to the next slide. Can you imagine if Paul had a cell phone? I'm talking about Paul the Apostle. Can you imagine what his ministry would have been like? Paul would have probably never tried to get to Rome. He would have just stayed where he was in Ephesus, holed up in Ephesus somewhere, and would have reached the world that way. All right, so when we think about it theologically, and you know, y'all can tell me if it gets too deep, but if we think about it theologically, one thing we want to talk about is the incarnational nature of digital media. Does everybody understand what I mean by incarnation? That's language that suggests that Jesus came in flesh and that the Word dwelt among us. And again, digital media provides that opportunity, right? That the Word might dwell among us. It also gives us the opportunity to be a part of what we call the Missio Dei. That is God's mission, right? And that God partners with you and I to get this mission done. And again, we can enhance the mission and enhance the work by the use of digital media, all right? And then finally, this discipleship by proximity, that it's more about presence and intentionality. Part of discipling someone is proximity. Walking with someone, living with someone. That's why Jesus said to them when he walked by, you know, follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men. There's something about proximity when you're doing this work of discipleship. And again, for a church that you know, persons are only coming, I give the numbers again, 20% attend church regularly, 41% at least once a month, 57% never attend church. How do we reach? First of all, the other 80% that attends church regularly, how do we reach them, right? How do we reach the 57% who have not come back to the church or will not come back to the church? All right. So again, we talk about our missional mandate. Again, it's to focus on reaching those in digital spaces. Again, the unchurched. Do we understand what I mean by unchurched? Right? Those who've never heard the gospel. All right? The underchurched, those who have heard the gospel, the good news, but for whatever reason have not received and accepted it. The dechurched, they call them the nuns. Y'all heard that language? And the duns. The nuns are our children and our children's children who say, I'm done with church. And then the nuns who say, I'm never going to step into church because there's a bunch of hypocrites over there. Right? And then we talk about the digitally native, which again are those communities that either because they don't have access to internet or that kind of thing, or again, they just think that this stuff is of the devil. What are you bringing in? It's almost like, for some of you who understand this, when we started bringing gospel music into the church, anybody remember how they took Andre Crouch and Sandra Crouch? They didn't really receive that, right? And it's the same way with this digital work. And then, of course, the displaced, those who are traveling, sick, caregivers, incarcerated. We have the amazing opportunity now to actually go into some prisons without even going into the prison, because many of them have access to internet and things like that now. So it's an amazing opportunity that we have. Again, we prioritize engagement over entertainment. That's the critical piece. I mentioned this earlier when I got started. We have moved way past the time where you can just put up a camera and think that's it and say you got digital ministry. Without the engagement, we have nothing. And then without the engagement, we are then competing with everything else out there that can get someone's attention, right? And then, of course, connection over just content, and then incarnation and inspiration. Oh, Jesus. All right, next. we are not just online. We on mission. That's the Marine in them. Let's move on. So I want to talk now about the priority. That ministry must extend, I've been saying this, beyond the live stream, which really is only the entry level of this work. So as I stated, when I first started doing this, looking at this stuff back in 2012, all I had was Facebook. And I wish I could tell you I figured it out, how I could do it then. I never could figure it out, how to make that work. I've gotten better, I've gotten more sophisticated now. I get it. But I understood it was more than just somebody taking my DVD home and being discipled that way. That was not going to disciple anybody, right? Where's the opportunity for engagement? Where's the opportunity for me to answer a question if you have a question about my sermon, right? Where's the opportunity for me to connect to you outside of the sermon where we just catching up and I'm doing a wellness check to see how you're doing, right? Digital media allows us to do that. So I'll give an example in my previous church when COVID hit. So what happened at that church was this. They weren't as progressive as Antioch and as AJ is. I kept saying, we got to get online. Got to get online. They didn't want to invest in the equipment. They didn't want to do the work. We had a Facebook page, but they didn't really want to do the work. So they would just put my sermons up for whatever that's worth, and that was the end of it, right? But when COVID hit and we got locked in place, that third Sunday of March, I was doing live streaming from my house. And I had to find ways of engaging with my members as well as those who were watching just by picking it up through our Facebook page, right? That was something that I was not prepared for, and many pastors were not prepared for it. And many churches by default now are doing digital media. The question is, are we doing it well enough to reach those we're trying to reach, right? And so, again, live streams, Facebook, those are starting points for most digital ministries, but that cannot be the final destination. We have to find ways of incorporating small groups, pastoral touch points. I was doing, we were doing like a Thursday lunch and learn for my seasoned saints. We started a prayer call. We're still doing that every Monday through Friday, 6:30. We were doing that. After service, I was jumping on Facebook. Nobody was joining me. I don't know what that was all about. But I would jump on Facebook after service just to kind of talk and pray for people and things like that. And, you know, one or two people jumped on, but again, it never really took off the way I thought. But that does not mean that we don't keep trying it, right? And then finally, you know, another priority is the digital care team. There's only one AJ. It's only one of you. I don't know what kind of teams you all have, but I can probably guess it's very small. One person, 2, 3, yeah. So how do we build a team, right, that can help us to do this work? And again, that's part of what I call digital ecosystem. All right, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. All right, so here's my question. Is your digital presence a reflection of your discipleship priorities? So I want you to evaluate the work you're doing now. Is that geared toward discipleship? And if it is there ways you can think about improving that work? That's not a rhetorical question. That was a question I want somebody to answer. That's not rhetorical. Is your digital ecosystem constructed in such a way that it will help you disciple those who may never come to your church but watch your broadcast or whatever else?
I was just going to say, I think a lot of times, and especially prior to COVID, our hands have always been tied.
Yeah.
Don't do this, don't go but so far.
Yep.
And so to try to break that now,
It's tough.
It's tough.
Yes,
it
sir.
really is.
Yeah.
And to drag them along. Now they're saying, okay, this is what I need you to do.
Yeah.
When you tell them I need to go and do this, well, do we have to do it that way? We talked about pet peeves in the Q&A.
Okay.
One of my pet peeves for years has always been, you want $1 million presentation, but you got a $2 budget.
$2 budget.
You've got to get them to come up and say, okay, and maybe it is just piecemealing it, you know, a little at a time.
Yeah.
I hate open source,
Yeah.
but I use open source to show them where we can go.
Right. Right.
But we can't stay here.
Yeah. That's good. Thank you. Anybody else? Is your digital presence a reflection of your church's or your ministry's discipleship priorities?
I would say yes and no. And for me, small church context,
Yeah.
I had problems with a wide aperture with COVID and then bringing it in because we were getting people that were kind of outside our community. And how do I balance that with the privacy and community of my congregation? So we were doing some more open streaming. Then we went to Zoom for our small groups and
There you
Bible
go.
study
Yeah.
for those touch points. But I still don't know because my local congregation does not actively invite people. They're a family church. So how do you grow?
Yeah. Yeah. And you may end up growing in the space, in the digital space, right? Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's the same thing I saw. You know, we were small church, family church. I mean, and families had intermarried into families. And again, no budget for it really. You know, so I was paying for stuff out of my pocket, you know, just to kind of give some presentation to all of this. And yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
had one thing and then
Yeah.
Reverend V.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would say the same thing. I think the mindset, just what everybody is having, I think people are reluctant. They are still trying to do ministry a second century tactics in the 21st century.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, everybody's still like, hey, we got to knock on doors. There's nothing the matter with that. But you have another tool that you can do more.
Right.
Everybody is like, I don't want to change, even though God is the only thing that doesn't change.
Right.
Everything else is.
Right.
But people are still like, why can't we just do it the way it used to? Because the world is not the way it used to.
Yeah. And to your point, I don't think, and again, y'all, I know y'all just ate and it's hot in here, so if you need to stand up, stand up. I don't think it's going back to what it was. And to be honest with you, if we're looking at the trends, it's trending in the other direction. And so at some point, we're going to have to invest in a digital presence that is as best quality as we can produce. Because again, we're going to be competing with so many other services. I mean, I remember during COVID, people were watching 3 or 4 services a Sunday. They would jump from this one, jump to that one, jump to this one, jump to that one. And some of that behavior probably still is going on. But again, I think this space allows us to move beyond. We were raising more money online at my previous church than we were in the church. A whole lot more. Yeah. And even last year here in December, somebody caught our live stream and made a major donation to the church. Several $1,000s to the church, right? And so, again, it does have the potential to reach, right? We just have to, I think the thing is, much like everything else, when anything's new and we don't understand it, we begin to fearmonger, and we have to move past that. Yeah. It's hard, yeah. That's why I think piecemealing is the best way, just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. All right.
I wanted to answer your question, and I would say yes, because I went to my pastor September, October of last year, because I have 4 grandchildren, from 3 all the way to 13. The children got lost in the COVID, in the pandemic. So, and a lot of churches have not reinstituted Sunday school or even had children's church. So, along with his vision, then we started, he agreed, and then so we started children's church and Sunday school, and I've had like 7 converts since that time, because now we're finding young adults or people in their 30s just accepting the Lord Savior Jesus Christ. But when I was going, I did it at 12. Sometimes some people thought that was late
too young,
in age.
Exactly.
So to answer your question, yes. Yeah. And my pastor's Dr. Paul Flowers.
Let's move to the next slide. Thank you all for your comment. So I want to talk now about this framework for digital engagement. And all of this should be self-explanatory. I'm just going to kind of go through it. The first one, of course, will be presence, right? What Reverend Lightfoot did not tell you is one of the first assignments I gave her when she got here is to respond to those who were making comment on our Facebook page and our live streams, right? Because again, engagement. Somebody needs to know that somebody knows I'm here. And how do we help people to feel seen and heard unless there's somebody there responding, right? And so that was her first assignment. She did that so well, I moved her to the children's church. But again, this regular, responsive, relational engagement, right? And then being consistently available to your digital community. I'm going to talk about my prayer group in a moment. Second part of the framework is proclamation. It gives us an opportunity to teach and to preach and to inspire. I do a piece called Manna in the Morning. I don't do it as regular as I used to. But I do it, I release it at 5 o'clock in the morning, do it at 5 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday when I'm on my best game. And so I put that out as about a 5-minute message, and then I take that message, download it into Opus Clip, and then Opus Clips breaks it down even further. And I'm able to then communicate out from there, right? Part of my ecosystem. And then I'm able to kind of go in and respond to people, amen, I'm glad the message moved you, whatever the case may be. But again, it gives me an opportunity to reach people and inspire them in a way that I may not be able to normally, right? Of course, participation, the interactive part of the Q&As, polls, comments, live. Anybody using, first of all, is everybody using live stream at their churches and their ministries? Okay, are y'all using polls and questionnaires? We haven't gotten that far yet. We just put it up, and so I offended y'all when I said that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I wasn't trying to offend you. I was just trying to make a point. Did I offend you when I said you put up your live stream and just leave it? No, I'm just playing with you. All right, so listen. So participation is another way. Pastoral care. My friend just mentioned it, right? That there's certain things you do not want to address pastorally in a live stream situation or in a Facebook live type thing, right? But if there's another part of your ecosystem where you can kind of drill down, right? Whatever, whether it's and I'm gonna talk about WhatsApp in a minute, but whatever that looks like, right? You're able to then provide that one-on-one, that personal touch, right? And then also maintain people's privacy and confidentiality. Because that's another reason people don't trust this space, right? Y'all would be surprised, as progressive as we are, how many people at this church don't want to be on camera. I won't even hear a month, and I got called on that one because we put the camera on the congregation, and they said, well, I don't want to be on camera, right? So all of these things we have to be mindful of, and so there are ways in which we can engage people in a larger setting, right, and then drill down to a more personal, interpersonal space, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Again, and then pathways, and so that's where I'm going with all this pathways. There need to be, and this is something you can write down as well, whether it's on your website, your Facebook page, whatever that iteration of your ministry is, clear, defined next steps. So let's say, for instance, you got the live stream up, you're interacting with them. Now what? Where do we send them? This is not the language we use in the church, but where do we funnel them? Right? What's the next step? Is it inviting them to a Bible study? Is it inviting them to be a part of an online this or that? Right? The question becomes what's next. And oftentimes what happens is not only do we make the mistake of not going far enough in terms of our live stream, but I think we don't go far enough in terms of what's the next step. They don't know. Yeah, how can they? Yeah, I mean, it's particularly for those who are watching our stream. How do they connect with us beyond just that moment, right? And so we I think they're going to talk about websites and all that stuff later, but the optimization of that. But again, one way of doing that is optimizing and maximizing the website. Putting on the website links that says next steps or plan your visit, those kinds of things that allow persons to kind of get a look at your ministry from the outside, particularly for those who might pop up on you one Sunday, right? They can kind of plan that. So we really want to talk more about these pathways. How do we give? How do we serve? These kind of things. And you do know that there are opportunities for people to serve digitally as well, right? So, yeah, we don't want to exclude them from that as well. All right, any questions about this framework? Is this helpful so far? All right, the sandwich sitting on y'all a little bit? I get it. Listen, I get it. All right, so let's go best practices for digital ministry. One, that every ministry should have a content strategy, and so I don't have to have that because I have AJ, the CEO here, but there should be a strategy for your content. How often, when, where, to whom, who you're trying to target, all of those kinds of things. There is power in storytelling. This is another place we can probably do better. Rather than just putting up static information, what happens, somebody was talking about this earlier, what happens if the media team follows the pastor one day as the pastor goes about his ministry of that day? It puts a face on the ministry, but it also personalizes. Somebody was talking about the bicycle rides. Yeah, my Brooklyn folk. They followed the pastor riding bikes, right? You want to humanize yourself beyond the digital space, right? That this is just not a bot. This is not just a computer, and this is not just AI. Because y'all know they're doing that now too. Y'all know they're doing AI preachers. Have y'all seen that stuff? I mean, and it looks so real. You literally got to look at that thing. I mean, and the preacher's talking all crazy. I'm like, what is they talking about? But it's AI. Yeah. They're going to drill it down. This is the first iteration of it. When they really get that second, third generation, it's going to be hard. And so one of the ways we mitigate that is that we put a face They know who we are and what we look like, right? And I think storytelling is a part of that. Accessibility, of course, captions, and so I want you to think about this, and I hadn't thought about it till recently. Opus Clip, no. Big View, I use Big View. Big View allows me to record what the message is, and then it allows me to put captioning. Now, we may think that's not a big deal, but what if I can't hear? It's a big deal then. Yeah, they're gonna stop watching. Oh, I'm on your stuff? Oh, I'm sorry, AJ, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, you do. No, it's your show. I'm just here. I'm grateful to be here.
No, it's just that we were talking about that in a roundtable before.
I got AJ excited. I did my job.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's very important because, like, just to this, and you kind of made my non-existent hair stick up, that, like, YouTube has now changed it that it will do auto captions in any language.
Yeah.
But then we were talking about from the media ministry, I'm giving away my stuff, that we're trying to develop something to where we can actually do sign language for whatever, because that's another community that no church is talking to at all.
Exactly.
But I'm just in complete agreement that
powerful.
it's just so much stuff that we can do that we're just sleeping on.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. And yeah.
I work in law enforcement, and so I've been talking to the boss about we have to have and we don't have any communication, any outreach to the deaf community, and I said, there's just no way that we have this few people who are hearing impaired coming into our to get services from us.
Yeah.
It's only because they don't feel that anyone's going to help them.
Right.
That there's no one going to answer their question or help them with whether their concern is. I had a cousin who was hard of hearing, so I know that it's difficult sometimes for them to make that step because people think they're stupid, and when they can't hear and they can't understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy for us, we neglect.
We
those
take it for
people.
granted. Yeah.
We definitely take it for granted.
I mean, I want you to think about. Thank you for that. Think about how much. I'm gonna just say religious content is on YouTube or any place else, but how many of that content has streaming? The words across the screen or some kind of augmented. Yeah. How many of them? I mean, great stuff. But you have alienated a whole segment of people, and we have not been called to disciple just a segment, right? And so how do we go about that? So the live stream hosts, again, so as I said, we're working on that. We're trying to get better at that. Again, platform-specific type of content. Facebook and YouTube are different platforms, and so the content that will go on them should be different, right? And how we manage that. And then, of course, we always want to be relational focused. And so, again, that's what the engagement is about. It's about establishing a relationship with whomever is using our content, okay? All right, so let's show some of these case studies. Everybody know Transformation Church? Y'all know Michael Todd? I ain't gonna ask you about that. Okay, so through this section right here, I'm gonna talk about what they do well, and I'm gonna talk about some key metrics, right, that they measure. That's another thing. If you're gonna be using digital, we wanna make sure we are catching data, analytics, benchmarks, because how do we know to adjust if we don't know what the benchmark is? I'll give an example. So Michael Todd, high impact teaching, cinematic quality, viral sermon clips. Y'all know Mike Todd is known, the most known for, he was doing a sermon on Jesus restoring sight to the man, and he spit in his hand and then rubbed it on the guy's eyes. And that's a bit much, but he's known for that. right? He uses YouTube and podcasting as discipleship, content hubs, and active real-time engagement during his live streams. So he's getting in real time and interacting in real time with those who are watching and interacting with his content. All right? Look at these metrics. 10 million YouTube views monthly. 10 million. Can you even fathom? How you doing? 10 million. Discipleship replays, they have what they call TC Nation app. I would also recommend every church have an app. Anybody want to guess why? Everybody on their phones. At all times. Yeah, I sleep with my phone under my pillow. Yes, I do. I do. So when I wake up in the middle, I can look at it. So I don't miss nothing. Anyway, okay. Thank you. I don't know why she act like that. Okay. Different strokes for different folks. And then again, the metric is how many people is he engaging in terms of prayer needs. That's another opportunity of ministry and discipleship that we often miss, to give people opportunity to share their prayer request, right? And then from that, we can create another means of contact and connection, right? Where we can connect with them. So that's Transformation Church. That's what they do well. Let's look at the next one. Y'all heard this about the Bible Project? Aren't they good? You know what's so phenomenal about this ministry is they do 5-minute videos that you can use in your own ministry, right? So here we are trying to figure out how do we reach the youth and the young adults during the week. They'll sit there and watch 5 minutes of that, and then maybe have a conversation around whatever the theme or the topic is. Let me see if I can do this. Watch out. Okay, I got it going. I don't know about the sound, and it might not pick up. But this topic was learn how God's anger and love work together. That was the topic. It's not going to work for me, but this is phenomenal, and they have this content on YouTube where you could, like I tried to do here, embed it, right, and use it doing a session with your youth or your young adults, or even some of your adults, and it gets right to the point. Again, part of the ecosystem. But look at what they do. They teach through animation, videos, podcasts. Again, Bible literacy for the digital age. I mean, just thousands of, and then open source material. But it's pretty good open source stuff, material. But look at this, 200 million views. To AJ's point, translated in 60 languages. And is being used in seminary and informal. Isn't that amazing? Discipleship.
If you tried to describe what God is like, it could be difficult or daunting. But when the people who wrote the Bible pondered the mystery of God, they consistently describe God's character in this way: compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, overflowing with loyal love and faithfulness. We're going to look at this third phrase, that God is slow to anger. Now, that might surprise some people. Isn't the God of the Bible mostly angry, striking people down for their sins? Well, it turns out that God's anger in the Bible is way more nuanced than that, and way more interesting. In Hebrew, the phrase slow to anger is pronounced erek apayim, or literally long of nose. But what does God's patience have to do with a long nose? Well, first, we need to look at the common biblical Hebrew way to say that someone is angry. Their nose burned hot. Like in the story of Joseph, when Potiphar thinks that Joseph tried to sleep with his wife, his nose burned hot. It's usually translated, his anger burned. It's describing how your body, especially your face, gets hot when you're filled with anger. And so in Hebrew, the main words for anger are either nose or heat or hot nose. This is why a patient person is called long of nose. It takes a long time for their nose to get hot. Like in the biblical proverb, a person's wisdom is their long nose. That is, their slow anger. Now, in the Bible, God gets angry numerous times, but God doesn't have a nose or get hot. These are metaphors, using our experience of hot anger to describe how God feels when he witnesses human evil. Just like you would get angry if you saw a child being bullied on the playground, so God gets angry when humans oppress each other and ruin his world. In the Bible, God's anger is an expression of his justice and his love for the world. But he's slow to anger, which means he gives people lots of time to change. Like in the story of the Exodus.
Y'all see that? That's powerful. That's powerful. So again, that's I think what makes this ministry so strong. And again, you know, we can always pull from these examples to use in our own ministry context, right? Let's go to the next one, AJ. Thank you.
When Pharaoh
Emmanuel AME Church. This is another. I want you to look at the metrics. So look at what they do well. Weekly virtual prayer room. They have a QR code-based visitor connection system and social justice live stream series with chat-based follow-up groups. But look at the metrics. 75% retention of new digital visitors through follow-up. 75%. That's amazing. 3 times weekly pastoral digital care. So again, we talked about those touch points, just the pastor jumping on, whether it's Facebook or Zoom, and just connecting with people, right? And then member-led Facebook and WhatsApp prayer communities, which are ways of drilling down in a more personal way, as was shared. All right, so let's move to the next one. Thank you. All right. Y'all know this church, Life Church. Groschel. Y'all know Groschel? Everybody know Groschel? Yeah. You know what they do well, again, strategic innovation. They were the ones who formed YouVersion Bible app. Yeah, innovative. Also have a church online platform, which is probably one of the best out there. And then they use data-driven digital discipleship. Look at what they do weekly online. 300,000 visitors. 500 million on their church app. Right? So it gives them the space, the opportunity to offer discipleship opportunities, right? To over 300,000 people on a weekly basis, 5 million, was it 5 million? Yeah, 500 million through their church app, right? Next one, please. Have you all heard of this ministry? Probably not. Jesus Image Orlando. Again, multi-platform worship. What makes them significant is how they use the social platform to raise money. So look at the key metric: 2.1 million YouTube subscribers, 116,000 TikTok, 322,000 Instagram, 5,400 monthly visits of 10 seconds or more. Right, so we typically measure by 30 seconds. If somebody's been on your site for 30 seconds, that's the measure. And then capital campaign, look how much money they've raised, $15.8 million through the platform, which suggests to me that they're doing ministry that persons are being blessed by, they're benefiting from, and in turn, when they make the ask or the call to action, people are giving to the tune of $15 million. I wonder if our churches could use that kind of money, and what will we do with it? Now, I'm giving you these case studies for you to study them on your own, because again, I think they have some great stuff that they're doing. But again, I think these are some of the top that I've found. All right, next one, AJ. Reframe Ministries is another one. I think what I like most about this ministry is they're multilingual, they're multi-channel. That means they're on radio, they're on TV. You see the ecosystem? This is how they reach they're disciples, they're digital disciples. Kids dramas, family media, and AJ's been talking about this here with our YouTube page, is creating multiple channels within the page, right? And creating it and acting and treating it like it is a broadcast, like we have our own station. Hey, that's sweet, right? Antioch Online, or whatever he's going to call it, right? But we can do things like that. I know he's going to do something in game with a game later, but imagine if we were doing some of this stuff like dramas and I don't know, whatever y'all wanted to do, right? How we could reach persons and reach them where they are. Why is that important? Because not everybody learns the same, and not everybody receives content in the same way, right? And so for some, it may be a drama, it may be a narrative, it may be a cartoon, it may be whatever the case may be. But on your YouTube channel, you have multiple channels to do that. And then people can pick and choose, right? And the longer they stay on your channel, the better it is, right? The more engagement there is. So again, they produce content in 10 languages. And again, as we stated, offer radio, video, and online programs throughout the year. This is not seasonal. I haven't gotten there yet, Joe. I do stuff seasonally around the church calendar. So I'm really busy around Lent. It's when I really drill down in Lent and in Advent. But the other parts of the year is kind of an ebb and flow kind of thing for me. I have to get better. I have to get better, and I know AJ will help me do that. All right. Any questions about the ones we've seen so far? Yes, sir. Yeah, because they're streaming.
I don't know if you had this listed on your slide for transformation, but even in you saying, one thing that they did well, you introduced us saying, well, this is how they're known, viral moments.
Yep.
So they have a lot of viral moments. Not that I'm looking for,
Right.
the churches that we work for to, have viral moments, especially in the way that,
Right.
some people do it.
Right.
But viral moments is definitely one.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah. We need a runner.
I just wanted to know, how do they measure if they got disciples? Because I know we're supposed to lead them to the water, per se, and they're supposed to drink.
Mm-hmm.
So, but how do they measure whether or not they're actually making disciples?
I mean, again, it's the engagement. It's
Just
the
the
personal
engagement.
Right.
Not
because
Do they accept the Lord Savior Jesus Christ?
they have a next step that they kind of lead people into that
Okay.
process, right? Because we can be deceived by the numbers,
Right.
right? I can say I have 5 million viewers, and I'm thinking but I'm not. I haven't discipled any of them, right? They're just taking our content in, but you have to, and we talked about this earlier. You have to take them through a next step process.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It would almost be the same as we do in church. Extend the invitation.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And if you want to do that, then you meet me over here, and right. Yeah.
So that goes to what are some good next steps for, say, a Bible study or versus good next steps for a Sunday service?
So there are so many. I mean, it's really left to your creativity. I've shared a few that I think are good. Like, for instance, after service, maybe doing a virtual pop-up. Meet me on Facebook or YouTube or wherever. I think groups and small groups. One of the things I've been looking at and wrestling with is my vision for the church is, I think what the vision of the Bible is for the church is really about discipleship. It's really rooted around discipleship. And so I've been wrestling with this model of what I call formation circles, right? Where we are discipling persons in small group, 4 to 12. Just another way of saying small group, a cell group. And what I'm trying to figure out now is, and I think I got it, is how we do that in virtual space. right? And so that's another opportunity as a next step. I want to invite you to this. I invite them to a game night, right? AJ and I have been talking about some of that. But and, even a watch party, there's so many ways. And I think the way I think about it is, if I had them in my presence, what would I think to do? And I can pretty much do the same thing virtual. Yeah, I mean, I think there's no limit to what we can do. I think we've limited ourselves. I think that's the problem. We've limited. But y'all are all creatives, so it may not be us in the room. It may just be the structure that we're in, and they just don't see what you see. And then some of the stuff we want to do is going to cost money. Right? It's not going to work on a free program, on a free plan. It just ain't going to work. You only have so many licenses on a free plan. And so, I've had to purchase stuff, and I know AJ has done it. I mean, I purchased outright just because I needed it. I needed Opus clips because I got tired of trying to figure out how to do videos and then posting it. I mean, it posts 4 different places for me. I don't have to do it. That takes me 5 minutes. So it's things like that. But there's so many. I'll turn it to you all. What are some things you can think of to do in the virtual space as a next step, potentially? Yeah, I'm going to turn it on y'all for a minute. I'm trying not to go over. I know I got about 10 minutes? Okay, I'm going to move through.
Yeah,
I'm almost finished.
I was sitting here thinking after he asked the question, like you could do weekly Zooms.
Yeah.
Just to build that camaraderie, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was a part of like a men's group outside of the church, and it was a fatherhood program, and we met weekly. And you'd be surprised, the outcome of that weekly meeting for I think it was like 9 weeks. And it was good. I built good rapport with some of the brothers in there too, where now we're still cool, months later after the program ended. So that's a great way to start discipleship, just by bringing them into the fold and building that time with them. And from there, you never know, months down the line, some money might pop up. Then if they're further away out, y'all can find something to do, meet up, however the Lord leads you to do that. But it's a great start just by, building weekly like that.
That's good, thank you. And also, what about interest groups? You're interested in this ministry, want to know more about it, jump on this link at 6:30 on Friday, and do that for a couple of weeks. There's so many ways. Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna say at our church.
It's on.
Okay. We do the discipling virtually now, because once COVID hit, we used to have life groups.
Yeah.
And so then we went virtual, and a lot of people stayed virtual, but our church is really focused on trying to grow that.
Yep.
So we have a lot more groups, and people really like joining together. You don't have to drive there.
Yep.
It's kind of really lowered the barrier. You don't have to clean your house. You don't have to find a place to meet. You just
That's right.
say, I'm willing to lead a group. And the church gives us kind of an outline to go through, and so you're not having to make it up yourself, but there's there's consistency, and people really do appreciate that. And once a quarter, we try to get together in person. So you have the virtual part, and then we come and share a meal or do something.
I love it.
Just to kind of
Keep
mix
that-
it up a little bit.
Yep, I love it. Thank you. Anyone else? I got to move through my slides. So anyone else? All right, those are great. I hope y'all wrote those down. Those are phenomenal. All right, let's move. AJ, I'm gonna move through these case studies. Are they gonna get access to this? Yeah. Okay. Okay, then I'm gonna move through all of this. So let me get to the platform strategy guide. That's slide 16, AJ. Just kind of look at that quickly. These different platforms and what you can do. Again, you're not limited. But Facebook, you can do live streams, events, groups. You can also do long form posts, Instagrams, reels, stories, inspirational stuff. I try to do inspirational stuff. YouTube, you can really upload more longer form type stuff, Bible studies, sermons, those kind of things. TikTok, short form stuff, right? Testimonials. X, I don't mess with X too much anymore, but it's out there. And then, of course, podcasts. Now, let me recommend this for podcasts. If you're going to do a podcast, I would probably do something podcast related that addresses people's concerns and pain points. It can be faith-based, but I wouldn't be too churchy. Does that make sense? Because there are people who have questions who may never come into a church, and they will never come into your digital space because they think you're going to preach to them. But if we do something creative around it, right? Like, how do I deal with my anger? You know, we can, yeah, things like that. All right, so next one, AJ. Y'all will get this, I'm gonna move through this YouTube piece. Here, weekly rhythm is a kind of a rhythm, a sample rhythm of how we can, you know, kind of do this. So, you know, Mondays can be one thing, Tuesday, and I would, if you're thinking about this long term and planning this out, particularly with discipleship type content, I would have a theme per day. This physical building here is only open on certain days, but your digital space can be open every day, all day, 24/7. Our revival is next week, and on Monday, I'm calling for, I'm fasting and calling for prayer for 12 straight hours, and I'm going to have people come on the hour and pray on Facebook Live. That's going to be so cool. But those are the kind of things we can do in this virtual space. And so, again, that's Monday. Then Tuesday will be, of course, revival, and we'll probably do interviews and things like that, and all that kind of stuff to kind of get the content. All right, let's move through. I know somebody's going to do this later. Next one, AJ. Somebody's going to do this later. But if you don't have Canva, get Canva. StreamYard is a little expensive now. I think it's like 200 something. So I used to use it. I don't use it anymore. I'm using Opus Clip now. But these are some softwares and platforms you can use to help you do digital ministry and to help you to reach those persons that you're reaching. Because again, we want to give them the personal touch. What would it look like in a virtual space if you sent out an email the following day thanking them for attending the service? And in that email, sharing them what the next steps are. And then asking them a couple of days later, is there any way we can pray for you through the app or something to that effect? All right? All right, move, AJ, for me. All right, let's move past, okay, we can move past that. We'll move past. So in these slides that are coming up, these are just suggested rhythm for how you would plan this out and implement it. And so when I got here, AJ had done a lot of this. So now I'm at the point where I'm building out the digital team, the digital pastors, and all. I'm building that out now. You know, we have the platforms. I think we're good with that, and then we'll take it from there and build it out even more. All right, so let's move, AJ. Let's get to slide 24. Got a couple more, y'all. We're almost done. All right, best practices. All right, can y'all see that? Can y'all see that? No? Okay. So we thrive when we prioritize people over platforms. We thrive in digital space when we prioritize people over platforms. It doesn't matter the platform. If we are not engaging people, you might as well not even be on there. You're wasting your time. Engagement is everything, and relationships must be built, and that takes time. Y'all do know now that they're saying in communication it takes people 7 times to hear something before they respond. So that means you got to hit people with content at least 7 times before they're going to respond. Right? So those things are important. So engagement is everything. Everything. We thrive when content is the ministry. What do I mean by that? Is that I'm not just putting up content to be putting up content. I am not personally trying to go viral. I'm just trying to add value. Right? And so that means even this stuff that we're doing today is content for ministry. Right? I'm sure AJ gonna cut it all up and make it look real nice. Right? We treat every sermon, every post, every devotion as a discipleship content. And the key is to keep it as short as possible. When I first started doing Manna, y'all was doing COVID, and I was doing them at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was doing 30 minutes just talking, greeting everybody, just talking. Okay, go ahead. I'm almost finished. But I've learned you got to keep it short, right? Because most people will only give you 30 seconds. And so if you don't capture them, I even changed, I would come on and say, good morning, Pastor Paul. Welcome to Manna in the Morning. I'm so glad I had to get right to the message now. Because if I don't hit them right away, that first 30 seconds, they gone. They gone. All that work. All that work. And they ain't heard none of it. All right? We thrive when we engage more than you announce. So that means that 90% of our material has to be relational. We thrive when we honor the algorithm. But watch this, y'all. We maintain authenticity. That means simply this. What is the authentic expression of your ministry? That I'm not trying to be somebody else's church. And I'm not trying to do content the way they would do it. Because that's not who I am. And imagine if they ever did come to Richmond and pulled up in Antioch. And they'd be like, where's all that stuff he was doing online? Where's all that stuff? What are screens and all that stuff? Yeah, no. Right? So we want to be authentic to who we are. And it's okay to be authentic and to be who you are. What is the signature, if you will, of your ministry? Right? And then finally, we thrive when we track metrics with ministry eyes. And so again, everything we do is about making our ministries better, and particularly as it relates to discipleship. So let me give you these key metrics. These are things you want to measure when you're looking at this stuff. I'm gonna give these to you, and then I'm done. And I got this from the Life Church. They put all this stuff out here for you in their blog. The first metric is monthly average attendance in virtual space. Again, let me see if I can move it. Y'all don't get the slides. But I'll just give them to you. Monthly average attendance. And what they suggest is to not measure the weekly attendance. Because as I said earlier, it vacillates. Right? So when I'm looking at the metrics for Antioch, and it's nothing earth-shattering. Probably 19,000 views weekly. But monthly, I'm looking at that average. What is that? It drops. It's coming in around 15,000 because we have this ebb and flow, right? And maybe that particular Sunday, more people were in church than they were the Sunday. Y'all get it? All right. Metric number 2, average monthly active CRM accounts. Everybody know what a CRM is? Yeah, customer response. So the things that we're measuring in terms of customer response, things like those who might sign up for baptism, to your question, Reverend Lightfoot, those who might submit an I am new form or request prayer request or submit a commitment to Christ, whatever the form is, right? We want to count that as well, the average of those. And then finally, what they call moments. We want to track moments. And moments are, again, where they take the next step, whatever that next step is for your church. We want to capture that as well, right? Those become the metric that help us to understand whether or not our discipleship efforts are being effective, or are we just part of somebody's viewing pleasure for the week? But are we really making the impact? And are we helping people to grow in their faith walk and in their fellowship of Jesus Christ? Right? If they make the next step. If they stay longer than 30 seconds. Those are the kind of things we want to measure. And finally, I'm done. I just want to remind us of Isaiah 43:19. Behold, I'm doing a new thing. And don't you perceive it? That I will even make roads in the wilderness. And it is my belief that this stuff is not going anywhere. And the sooner we get on board with it, the better and stronger, more impactful our ministries will be. I'm done. I know y'all gotta get you in next class. Any quick questions before we dismiss? Was this helpful to anybody? Okay. Any questions? No. Will someone close us in prayer? Will someone do that? Anybody want to do that?